actually, funny that you mentioned that. There's another layer of concept that you can actually gain from playing this game that relates to internal martial arts, which is sensitivity, right? So if you're on the defending side, obviously looking at the hand is not a very good way, okay? Because it takes far longer for the light going into our eyes, picking up by neurons, and travel to our brain to register something. That process, even though it is kind of fast, it is not fast enough. Right?
It's 205 milliseconds.
Whoa, what a gig!
All the theories. No, well, I will explain later on.
Okay.
But okay, so the slowest out of all the senses, right?
Yes.
Your reflexes. The slowest is vision.
It's
205 milliseconds. Auditory stimulation is about 180.
I see.
Slightly faster. Touch is the most sensitive one. It's about 100 milliseconds. So.
Yes. So the whole trick on the defending side is to not look at it, but to feel the sudden change of pressure. Okay. So let's play this. So like that, right? It's about suddenly changing the pressure and then you change. So obviously, this is different to those Wing Chun guys who want to do chi show with the eyes closed, with like a blind chi show. I think that's like a gimmick, so I'm not trying to promote that kind of idea. Obviously when you're sparring or fighting in real life, you do want to open your eyes. Totally doing this is stupid because it only works when you're also doing Wing Chun. If the guy pull his hand back and punch you, you can't see nothing. However, being sensitive and being relaxed, obviously, right? If you're in this state and you're tense, you're not going to be able to pick up the change of pressure. The signals, if you're tense, you can't feel it. You have to completely relax. But while relaxed, remain in a aware state, right? That's actually something that's very important, especially in Tai Chi. That's what we call Shen, right? The concept of being aware of the surrounding all around the body. Every inch of your skin you have to be sensitive to, not just the hand. So it's actually sort of, you can apply that kind of training state while playing this game. And when you do so, then you can react to the changes much faster. And how does it relate to real life? Well, then, in whatever given situation, when the moment that someone's move changes, you can adapt to it, and that's actually the main important practice when you're doing push hand, right? Push hand is all about being sensitive, and also you are in push hand. At any given moment, things can change, and you have to be able to adapt, either to switch or to attack. So this is actually you can say that the push hand is a more advanced version of playing this game. But obviously, if you're not allowed to strike, then it's missing some element of the training, right? So this actually is like imitating a striking scenario, whereas a push hand that you don't allow to strike, then you don't get that part of training. But if you're allowed to strike in push hand, for example, if I'm pushing, if I feel a mistake and I can hit him, then it almost becomes an advanced version of this game. And while doing this, you see just now, right? The moment I switched, then he responded, he felt there's a change here. Same as, for example, if I'm doing something and suddenly he tried to hit my rib, then I would know because it changes. So it's that kind of scenario. Now you might wonder, okay, but in a real life situation, who's gonna do push hand with you? I say obviously not, okay? But we're not trying to sense this the whole time. Right? It could just be that while we are shuffling, engaging, maybe there's just some moment where I suddenly feel that he's originally grabbing onto me, suddenly that hand went free, then you immediately would register that it's going to be a punch, and you can then come here and stop this, and then from here then hit it in the face, or do something that is according to the best scenario, or the best solution for the scenario. So that kind of sensitivity is very similar to knowing when to move back. Now, it's very important to take note that this isn't training, this isn't substitution for training, right? You can't say you play this with your power and then you become an expert in internal martial art. It's not like that. It's just the reason I'm making this video, I find it quite interesting that this child game encapsulates the essence of how internal martial art engages combat. And in case you still don't understand that, let's give another example, right? So for example, I could stand here with my hand here, and then for him, he doesn't know what I'm going to do. So it's much harder for him to make up a plan. If I hold my hand here, then he will know that I can only come from this limited position. In fact, he can start here and then try to then control this hand and then try to punch me or whatever. So or he can basically try to fend up and then kick low or something, right? There's something that he can deal with. If my hand is over here, then it's much harder for him to predict what my hand is going to do and control that. All he can do is throw punches at me or throw kicks. Yeah. But then if my training is good, then that pretty much can fall into my trap. I want him to do that. And when he does, then I will do the circular hand, which I've already made videos about, so you should already know. And the important thing here is that you can see, when I'm doing my circular hand, I'm not doing that. It's basically, okay, don't move that. I'm basically just staying here and just doing that. And that sudden explosion of this motion is pretty much like that. Okay, so I could give you more examples, but due to time constraint, hope that the two examples were my own master to that Tai Chi master, and then this circular hand can give you an idea of how internal martial art engages combat. Basically, you stand there like a cowboy, wait for the guy to make a move, and then you catch him as he moves to win the fight. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, there is a YouTube video somewhere.
Okay.
It's about, that's why I remember the numbers of the response time.
Okay.
It's because they were actually...
You don't have to explain why you geeky, right? It's okay.
No, it's not. It's actually not an educational video at all. It's one of those, I was actually looking at dogs. Don't ask me why, but yes.
You were Chinese.
Yeah, well, anyway, yes.
No, we're just joking, right? He loves dogs.
But yeah. Anyway, I love animals, fluffy animals. But anyway, so I was looking it up, and YouTube recommendation. We all know how the algorithm works, right?
No,
it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So actually, I got recommended on a video about a fly and its reflex time.
Okay.
So they basically have a fruit, like an orange or something, and they've got a fly on top of it, and they shoot an arrow to it, and capturing the whole event through slow, the timeless camera.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see that the fly actually didn't move until the orange start falling into exploding as the arrow strikes through.
Oh, so the arrow didn't hit the fly. It hit the.
It didn't.
Oh, okay.
It hits the fruit.
Okay.
They just want to see how quickly the fly can react to trauma. So the fly didn't react to the arrow at all. The arrow went through the fruit. Fly still didn't register anything. And then as the fruit start exploding, the fly start flying away.
Okay.
And it was only like when the orange start breaking up into pieces, right? It's not like the initial explosion, right? The fly didn't react. It's only when the pieces start breaking off, then you see the fly like flapping away.
Okay.
And that whole process took 8 milliseconds.
Wow. Okay.
So a human quickest response time is about somewhere 100 milliseconds.
I see.
So that's why when we look at movies, right, when they imagine how insects looked at us, we look like a slow moving giant, and that's why.
I see.
Their perception of time is different to us.
I see. That's actually interesting because if you've noticed, swatting a fly is quite hard too.
That's the reason why it's hard.
Yes, it's like if you try to telegraph your swat, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Because they've got 8 milliseconds of response time, whereas us we don't.
So obviously, I'm against killing any type of animal or any kind of life, including flies and mosquitoes, and I don't kill any of those. So I'm not saying that you should, but swatting fly is kind of similar to playing this game on a harder difficulty, right? So I mean, if there's a fly, you can't do this and hit the fly, you will miss. You almost have to just do that, like have no telegraphing.
Yeah. Well, the easiest is to catch them mid-flight, because they can't change.
Yes.
They can't change angle.
Yeah, so it's just like what we're saying, right? If you're already in the middle of doing an action, it's harder to adjust. So even though this is moving, but I'm actually not kind of moving. At any moment, I could do something else. So it's kind of that. It's almost like in karate, right, and in some of the kenjutsu style, they sort of shift their step like this. They don't take a step forward. Like when two guys are engaging, I think how karate hold their hand like this. They do this to get in range to strike instead of taking a step. Because when you're taking a step, during that moment you can't react, and if I got experience enough, he will hit you mid-step.
Oh yeah.
Like as he's taking steps, you will kick him or punch him. It's hard to react. That's why they will like walk up to the fight, but the moment they come closer, they'll stop doing this. They'll like stop doing that to get into the striking range to strike. Look at some of the traditional karate, they very often do this, and that's for the same reason, right? Because when you're shifting step like this, at any moment you are in control of your balance, and motion you can move back and move forward, you can do stuff. Whereas if you just take a step, that moment before you land, you are vulnerable. So that's pretty much what this is. That you do it slow so that every moment you can adjust. If you just lift your hand, during that motion, you can't react. Right, so yeah, so it's almost like swatting a fly. So if also right, if we allocation, I could also just stand here the 1 minute when I realize he's trying to mean harm to me, he's just hitting right in the face. See, again, I don't pull out my hand and do it, I don't pick up my guard, and just come from here, it's a pie gun from Wushin Tongbei, and just hit him. So it's almost like swatting a fly. You have to hit him before he can respond. Again, like I keep saying, the challenge isn't just speed, but to hit hard while having that speed. And to do that, and that's the whole point of internal martial art, to have that body mechanical quality so that you can hit somebody without the need to wind up. Alright, so I hope that this video has made sense to you and has been interesting. If it does, then do consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It will help the channel to grow in the long term. And I'll also be making a follow-up video to go more in depth on how Wushin Tongbei, my own martial art lineage, takes this concept into actual training that I'll be sharing on my Patreon exclusive video section. So if you're interested in that, as well as my other Patreon exclusive videos, which in detail talks about various internal mechanics of the 4 fundamental forces. If you're interested in those, do consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You have access to a lot of videos that I'm pretty sure you won't be able to find elsewhere on the internet. And and if you follow my channel, you should know that my style is that I don't talk BS, I don't make things complicated, I try to get to the core and explain everything at its bare fundamental mechanic. Right, and as always, a big shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support, especially the pandemic, and it makes me understand that there are people out there who appreciate the knowledge and information that I'm sharing. And lastly, I'd like to remind everyone that we're still in a pandemic, so wear your mask, social distance, sanitize your hands, stay safe, stay healthy, get vaccinated if you haven't already. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for watching Try This Martial Art channel, and I'll see you next time.